Hey guys, it's Natalie and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be filming a wrap-up video and I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read over the course of the summer. So June, July, and August. I have 5 total books to get through, so let's get into it. So the first book I read, I wanted to read because I was feeling like the summer aquatic vibe, so I picked this fantasy book that is set in a watery island world, and that is All the Stars and Teeth by Adalyn Grace. So this is a young adult fantasy novel that follows our main character Amora, and she is the heir to the throne in her kingdom of Visidia, and her family have this special ability called High Animancer, where they can basically see into people's souls and take their lives using like a piece of their like hair or teeth or stuff like that. So like I said, there is a role of High Animancer in the nobility, and our main character Amora has a kind of indoctrination ceremony that goes horribly wrong, and then she ends up being on the run from the authorities because her ritual went so wrong, and so now she's trying to kind of redeem herself before she goes back home. I really loved this book. This really took me by surprise. I kind of knew I would like this book just because it has so many elements of books that I like. The fact that it's based on an island, there's siren mermaids, and there's just like different magic systems that kind of are reminiscent of Avatar: The Last Airbender, but with a little bit more flair, I guess. And I really love this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I think this book was fantastic. Our main character Amora has really deep character development. I really loved her personality, and you kind of see the morally gray areas in using her magic and with how she views the islanders as nobility, and I just really liked her character development in this book. I also really liked the romance that happened in this book, and I really liked the cast of characters. Overall, it was just a really fun time and I really enjoyed it. So yeah, like I said, 5 out of 5 stars, highly recommend. So the next book that I read was Emotional Agility by Susan David, and this is an adult nonfiction novel, and I heard about this book over on Jeanette McCurdy's podcast Empty Inside, and she actually interviewed Susan David, and I thought the subject material that they talked about, which is being emotionally agile, was very intriguing to me, so I went ahead and I picked up Susan David's novel. So I actually really enjoyed this book. I've really been into self-help books lately because as a 20-something, I'm trying to work through my flaws and my traumas and my behaviors from those traumas, and I think that being emotionally agile was definitely one of those things that I needed to learn more about so that I can better deal with conflict. As a child, I never really dealt with conflict well, and I still don't now. Like recently I had to turn down a job offer within my job that I have now because I was unable to because I cannot deal with conflict. And that really just made me think, because like I am very much aware that that is a flaw of mine, but instead of just saying that, I thought like, what can I do about that so that I can accept those job offers and I can, you know, excel in my life and in my professional life and work around this thing that has been so daunting for me. And so I think this book is exactly what I needed to read. It talks a lot about being emotionally agile and being able to work through your emotions. It talks about how there's no such thing as a bad emotion. It's just about how you react to those emotions that matters. And I really loved this book. Like I said, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I think that this is a good read for anybody who has difficulty with conflict or has difficulty with their feelings. So I definitely highly recommend this one. I feel like a lot of self-help books are really easy to forget afterwards because there is so much information packed into the book. And you kind of think, how can I possibly remember all this unless I keep this book in my pocket and I flip back to it? But this book, it definitely stuck with me, and I think a lot about the things that David mentions in this book, and I think this is just a overall fantastic book, like I said. So highly recommend. So the next book I read is, surprise the sequel to All the Stars and Teeth by Adalyn Grace, and I read All the Tides of Fate by Adalyn Grace. So if you aren't aware, this is a duology. It is only 2 books. So I went ahead and picked up this one, and I think I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. Yeah, so I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I didn't quite love it as much as the first one. I definitely think that there needed to be a second novel because of everything that happened, but at the same time, I feel like it just didn't have that whimsical, like, page-turning language that the first book had. Also, this is the book where our main character kind of is more morally gray than before, and it made me question my support of her, which I think that's what it's supposed to do, because, you know, not everyone is perfect and everybody does have this internal morally gray struggle all the time. I think that some of the things that she did just didn't align with like what I thought her beliefs were, like what her intentions were, and I guess that's like to keep the reader on their toes. But overall, like I said, I liked the first one better, but overall this is a great fantastic duology, and I think it's absolutely great to read during the summer just because it does take place on like a set of islands in this fantasy world. So yeah, overall really enjoyed this duology. Check it out. So the next book I read was a little bit disappointing, and I think maybe that's because I had really high expectations going into this book. There was a lot of talk about this book on BookTube and Bookstagram when it first came out. It was very well marketed and it made me want to pick it up, and also I just love the colors of the cover. And that is Anna Kay by Jenny Lee. So if you didn't know, Anna Kay is actually a kind of modern retelling of Anna Karenina, and I've never read Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I know it is a classic, it's on my to-read list, but I had no idea going into this book. So if you haven't heard of this book somehow, Anna Kay is a young adult fiction novel, and it follows our main character Anna and this other large cast of characters, and it's all her friends. They're very wealthy and they live in New York, and it kind of is just very Great Gatsby-esque in its strong ties into friendship and drama and just what is all going on within the confines of this friend group. Don't get me wrong, I normally hate books about rich people because I just don't think it's something that's really interesting to read about particularly. I tend to really hate reading about rich people problems. I just found that I don't love reading about the problems of rich people. So I kind of took a chance with this one, and I gotta say, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It was kind of mid for me. I really loved like all the tea in this book, obviously, because everyone loves indulging in drama now and again, especially when it's not their own. And this one was just, I don't know, I really liked this book. I think would have made it more enjoyable for me is if the characters were not teenagers but 20-somethings, because they act like 20-somethings. For example, they're all having this like, this is gonna be so cringe, mind-blowing perfect sex with like lingerie and whatever, and they're all doing drugs and they're all making out, and there's like huge scandals and all that kind of stuff. When I was 17, we were not doing any of this stuff. I mean, we were, but in the awkward, like weird, uncomfortable, almost teenage way that you do things, not in like this very like, I'm a confident badass woman and I have sex with lots of men and I do cocaine at a club. Like, this is very much like, the tone is very much like 20-somethings, not teenagers, and so sometimes it got a little bit uncomfy to read because I don't particularly want to read in detail about teenagers like banging it out. So overall, was the tea good? Yeah, it was good. But was the overall plot something that I'm ultimately going to walk away from with imbued knowledge? No. Did I think the book ended pretty poorly? Yeah. So I'm not gonna say I recommend or unrecommend this book. It's honestly, I think, personal preference, because I know there's plenty of people out there who love reading these stories about these like catty academia rich girls, right? People love that. They eat it up. I, however, am not one of those people. So take a chance with Anna Kay if you want. I'm not sure if I'm going to read the second novel. I'm still sitting on it because, like I said, I give 3 out of 5 stars. That's not a horrible rating. So it is to be determined if I read the second one or not. So, okay, my camera battery died, but we're back. So the next and last book that I read over this summer, I actually just finished it 2 days ago, so it's still very fresh in my mind, and that is The Vanishing Deep by Astrid Schult. This is a young adult fantasy slash dystopian novel, and it follows our main character Tempest, who lives in this world that is basically what would happen if the waters rose so much that everything became underwater. And so Tempest people had to basically build these like floating islands made of scraps from what they call the old world, and it's a very, very interesting fantasy universe. There's this huge facility in Tempest world called Palindromina, and Palindromina basically owns all the crops and the medicine of the land, and it's the last remaining piece of land in their known world. So basically Palandromana also has the ability to revive people's dead loved ones for about 24 hours so that they can say their goodbyes. So essentially this facility like owns death. And so Tempest goes to Palandromana to try to revive her sister Alicia to find out what happened to their parents who mysteriously disappeared 5 years prior. But when Tempest goes to see Alicia, Alicia convinces Tempest to break her out of the facility for her last remaining 24 hours. So this book was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars instead of 4 because I think the ending felt a little bit rushed to me in my opinion, and there was a half-baked romance, and you guys know if you watch my videos, I hate half-baked romances. So yeah, like I said, give this book 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think it was a lot of fun. It takes course over mainly 24 hours and it didn't feel like it was super rushed or anything like that, and I felt like there was still enough character development and you got to know the characters well. Like I said, yeah, I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars because I didn't love the ending and I didn't love the romance, but overall I think this world is very interesting, and honestly I would have loved to know more about it. I honestly wish the book was like a little bit longer just so that we could learn more about it. But yeah, so highly recommend this one. So those are the 5 books that I ended up reading over the course of this summer of 2022. I really enjoyed them for the most part, and I think it was overall a pretty good season of reading, and I'm super excited to get back into reading spooky books and making spooky videos. I've got a couple plans, so keep your eyes out for them. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Leave a like and subscribe down below, and leave a comment letting me know what books you read over the summer, which one was your favorite. Let's just chat about books in the comments. Have a good rest of your day. Bye!